It's 6 o'clock, so let's start our meeting here. Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Facilities Committee meeting. We've had a chance to review the submissions from the consultants, and hopefully what I'd like to do is discuss the assessments and recommendations made by the consultants, and then either pick a company to move forward with, or at least narrow down to 2 or 3 to call back for interviewing.
Should we say the pledge of allegiance?
You certainly can say the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge of allegiance.
Okay. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So we've had a lot of information to digest. I'm hoping if I could have my druthers, we would walk out of here today with a choice of someone that can start moving us in a better direction than where we've been going. We've got a lot of immediate needs. If you have questions, Denny's here, but we've got some big projects coming up. We've got this roofing project above us that needs to happen. We've got water leaking into classrooms in the fall, and I assume in the spring when we get a melt, it's going to be happening again. That's a 300. Well, we've got I think 400,000 budgeted for it. We're estimating it's probably going to cost us $380,000. But now Denny has told me a couple days ago that we're having some major problems with our heating up here. We've got to have heat. How much did you say that?
The last time we worked on that was between $20,000 and $22,000.
$20,000 and $22,000. Okay. We got to get that fixed. We've got so many things that need to happen with our heating, and we've just got so much that has to happen. We've got to get moving. So let's start.
Is the roofing, is that part of or it's like scheduled to be done, or?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah. So that was budgeted for this year.
okay. Is that just this wing?
That's the just above us.
Lower
This
half of
this
that.
square, not the gym.
Newer edition?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The 99 edition. So
What are the heating issues?
We got a bad converter, it's leaking. We had replaced that about 4.5 years ago.
Okay.
We had the same issue now.
Converter.
You got steam on one side and hydraulic, there's water on the other. Your steam goes around the coils, heats that up, and that's sent down to all the roofers.
So there's a section of the school that's not giving heat, a zone that's not giving.
Right now, we're okay because I had them put a auto fill valve on it. We were losing pretty close to about 3 to 5 pounds in about 15, 20 minutes. That we need right at, well, we're running about 8.5 right now, and we're holding. But we generally run between 15 and 20. So I had them put an auto fill valve on there. We gain a little bit as the water heats up, plus we're on the second floor. So by the time it gets down to the bottom rooms, you're at about 12 to 14 pounds. So we're holding. That's all I can tell you. Where the water's going, it's showing up in the boiler room as return. It pushes through. So.
But you can't narrow down where it's pushing
Yeah.
through, or you have.
It comes, when I didn't have the autofill valve on there, the reason why we pretty much knew that there was a hole in that coil, it would go to steam pressure. And that's what our gauges would read, and about 8 pounds. So as we started filling to get it back up to 20, that pressure would drop off as soon as you put 60 pounds, 55 pounds, whatever our city pressure is. As soon as you put that against it, it pushes the steam back on the other side. And then our pressure would drop off to 0. So I'm hoping that we can schedule, this will get us through for 3 weeks, yeah. Well, I'd like to get it fixed before the season's over. I'd like to get it fixed during this heating season so we know heading into next year, you know, we're gonna have to replace that coil, can we patch that coil, can we, that type of deal. So I'm hoping for 35-degree days so we can pull that out, but I don't know, we're very hopeful in the next
No.
15, so.
Is that something you do, or is that something like Chapel?
I would
comes in?
have Chapel Central do that. I don't have the manpower to pull that. It's heavy. So,
And they know where to find us. They've been here quite a bit.
Yeah.
So that cost was approximately 22,000, you thought?
that was on a replacement. That's on the high side. I'm hoping that it's only,
If they can fix it,
yes, if we can fix it, patch it to get us through until we figure the direction we're going. Shooting from the hip, $5,000 for repair. Totally from the hip. I have no clue. It's a lot of labor is why it's
And then what was the name of the part again, or the,
converter, it's called. Basically converts your steam to hot water for the hydraulic system.
Is there just one of those, Denny, or one per boiler?
We actually have two in the building. We got one down in the boiler room, we got one up in the main vent. So, they were put in, I believe, approximately about the same time. I think the one in the boiler room was installed first, and then they installed one on the side.
my question is, so if it's ballpark just a repair at 5,000, what's kind of a time frame? How long does that give you for that part versus a $22,000 replacement? Now you're good for so many years. That's my question.
I wouldn't say 20, I'd probably say about 10.
The 5,000 would give you maybe 10 years?
No, the 5,000, I'm just hoping to get us through until we figure out what's going on.
Mhm.
And then after that, if we can run it, we are gonna run it in my mind. That's kind of up to you guys. But if I can get substantial enough heat out of it to get us through, if we have to block off 1 tube, 2 tubes, we don't know until we slide through them. So I believe there's 12, 14 tubes in there.
and that's part of our heating issue. The other one we were dealing with last fall, is when we start up the boilers every year, there's always leaks. And we've been suffering a lot of leaks. We actually talked about it, was it 2 board meetings ago, or was it the last one? You brought the pipes? The last one. Brought some samples of the pipes. They, my understanding is that, I don't know, 30 years ago maybe, there was a pump that would bring all this water back that maybe, we don't know, maybe it broke down, it's not there anymore. So then the water ends up sitting in those pipes all summer long, not moving. And then these pipes have been rusting from the inside out. They've been trying to patch them up when they can, but Denny showed me one where they tried to twist the pipe with a wrench and the whole pipe just kind of caved in. And that could end up being a pretty big fix, so.
So the replacement water, Denny, are just using regular city water? Or do we have a treatment?
For replacement water,
Yeah,
soft water.
Okay.
Comes
Just
right off the softener and it's treated.
Just not yet, okay. So nothing special other than soft water?
It's, after that, we've had, in the last month or however long it's been, 5 weeks, I had 7 weeks after that I've had the guy come back and fix. So,
Is that all Chapel Central then? Not to get too far off, as I'm listening to this, I mean, I'm not a professional in any of this, but all I hear is Chapel Central coming here a lot, and do you do you have a
Chapel's
service
got-
contract with them, or do you pay every single time they show up?
We do have a maintenance contract with them. I mean, we are at a lower rate,
Okay,
but
but
I
you're
mean,
paying
it's still,
everything by the hour.
Right.
I guess that's what I'm hearing, talking about this. Again, I'm not a professional with any of this, but it sounds like as we talk facility needs
a lot of the stuff,
and what
we
you're paying
almost have
for.
to go to time and material, but we can't go, I mean, yeah.
It's an old system. It's what, 50?
Most of our leaks this time are in the 40s. Two of the leaks were in the 40s. One was in the 70s. And the other 3 or 4 were in the, what I would call 60s. In that end.
The 1940s?
Well, that was,
So a little more.
it's hard to tell. I'd have to dig out the plan on that one, but that, it was in the coach's room.
So it's pretty much everywhere,
Yeah, it's
but not everywhere, that's
It's not just. Heating coil in the big gym. I got a bit on that, local. We'll research it, but just kind of a ballpark figure. The gym coil had 12 patches put on it. The last time I had them eliminate a coil because we've had a lot of issues there. The replacement coil is right at about 15,000. Local said they wouldn't come back and patch it again.
When you say local, who are you talking about?
It's local plumber in town. So, they said it's not worth patching, but I mean, if we can keep it running through the heating season, that's what I'd like to do with that as well.
Was Big Jim here or Big Jim in Rhode Island?
Big gym here.
Okay.
The big gym.
Is that the one with the bucket underneath it? No, that's something different.
No, that's something different. Yeah, that's the other heating system. That, the big gym is heated by 2 different heating systems because the one with the coil in it isn't big enough when it gets below 0 to heat that area. So they put up wall heaters. That was a wall heater leaking on the side. So
That was like a relief valve or something, wasn't it, or a
Yeah.
fitting?
there's a trap. And then,
So that was something, that was a minor issue there.
twice, but came back and fixed it and they had to do it again.
Somebody else that was,
They got into bad piping, and the guy, he patched it, it held, then we put some epoxy on it. It's kind of where we're at. Let's see, what else do we have? The west side of the tunnel, on the grade school side, we haven't got into there yet. I've been in and fixed other ones.
There's a lot of things down there.
Heating coil in the one by the lunchroom, I have a patch in there as well. Rhode Island, if you hear complaints about that it was cold at basketball games, I know Derek he was communicating with me, I was explaining it, doing the best I could. We lost a big boiler. The control boards, I know I brought this up before too, that control your burners, they went out. Those control modules we can't get anymore, so they had to convert that. That was just a little under $6,000 in order to get the big boiler up and running. So, I mean, we had to do it. So, I mean, it's, the same burner controls are on the boilers here in Olivia too. So it's just heads up. If they go out, we gotta reconstruct. We got 3 patches over in Bird Island done, as long as I had the guys here from Chapel. We have 3 more total over there to go. That's pretty much it.
So all in all, we have a lot of work to do.
A lot of work to do, and my concern is, obviously, there are certain things we just have to fix when they break. But when we start replacing things, if we're doing this without a plan, without a vision of where we're going, we could be replacing stuff that we're just gonna have to toss out and redo anyway. So this is the important thing we've got to do today, is figure out who we want to work with. And then basically what happens is that comes as a recommendation to the board, and then the board will make the final decision. But I don't see why they would go against what we decide here, so.
So right now, if we did both replacements, one's at 22,000 and one's at 15, and we just did those replacements for now, that's it for the replacements? So that's 37,000 for the replacements, if you were to replace it, not just repair it.
Right.
And then adding the 6,000 that you already paid, this would be $43,000 just to buy us time, if we do just replace them.
But I think you mentioned there's 3 more that they have to do, plus there was some things not addressed yet too, if I'm following along correctly.
Yeah, the patches, how much, I don't know what the patches cost.
It's time and material. Whatever it takes us up there. The 99 edition here, the last time we did that, it took us approximately 3 days, because we have to put the glycol in there, we have to put, you gotta bring that back up. That, whatever, 3 days later, how much work they have to do.
I guess my point is, I realize this has to get done, or we need to get something done, because we don't have a plan, but instead of doing like just repairs all the time, like for the converter, would it be wise at this time, instead of spending 5,000 and then seeing how much more you have to do later, just replace it, be done, move on? Same with the replacement, the 15,000 that's supposed to, in Bird Island?
The other.
Oh, the other
coil is
15's here, yeah. And doing that, instead of just repairing, do the replacement of 15,000, that's 37,000. Rhode Island, you already stuck 6,000 in repairs, and you've got 3 more patches to go. Even if that's another 6,000, so you know what I'm saying? For like 50-some thousand, we got all the repairs are replaced, and then now it'll buy us some time. It's give it some longevity, more so than just making you keep going back and repairing.
And I totally agree with you, but if you take 50,000 out of the 400,000, or around 400,000, I'm not sure, that would come out of the LTFM for the roof. So then we'd have to cut back on the roof repair. We either wouldn't do it, or we'd have to go to a relaxed fix on the roof. And I believe that came in right at about 160,000. So
60.
I mean,
I thought did we discuss though at the one meeting that we could go ask for money that we don't have to take to a vote, just so we can get this stuff done, and then now we can concentrate instead of always coming back and listening to the repair issue, fix that, and now we can concentrate on
No,
it.
we can't, because it's building, so it has to go per month.
There
So bond is,
there are ways to levy without going to a vote. It's not,
a levy though is a levy, that's for education, bond is
Well,
building.
you can bond, I'm sorry, I'm new. There are ways of bonding without going to a vote.
But usually they're a much larger project than how I was explained, but again, I am not the expert.
Yeah.
Well, regardless, I mean,
It's not a great way to do it.
No.
It's not a great way to do it.
I think that no matter what, we need to, I mean, we know we have fixes. So we read the recommendations from all of the people, that's where I think now we move forward with that, and then decide.
Yeah, the group we go with, we're gonna be asking them to do a lot of work for us. At the board meeting, we talked about, I think you mentioned what pairing opportunities are there with, does HS, you brought them up, that maybe they still wanna pair with us, or would wanna pair with us now. Well, this is a group that can then go and do this. They're a neutral party, they can,
Do you remember who they had for their firm?
who?
LHS.
LHS? No, I don't have any clue.
I don't remember.
They had what?
They have, I can't think of it.
Yeah.
Was it Mark?
Was it Martin?
Morton, yeah.
Was it?
Yeah, it's Ari Morton, I think. Yeah, Ari Mo- Ari
But they had a
Morton.
different company do kind of some other work. Cause they would do more like the architectural that came in.
Yes.
I
don't remember who it was.
I'll see if I can find it.
So this company then, once we pick one, they will work with us to give us ideas, but then they know that they're not gonna get the work, right? So then it's not like,
What do you mean they won't get the work?
they won't get the job, they're just gonna give us ideas, so they don't feel like they're gonna get the building project. I thought we discussed that at one of these facility committees meetings.
I thought that was what we did in December, but I could be wrong too.
If-
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think maybe, I know it's kind of hard where do you start in these situations, but, I think maybe we narrow down this a little bit and then we look at some of those scopes to see, tie that into this. I agree, and some of them did, I don't know if you read through all this stuff, but some of them did a little bit of that cost analysis to start with. But I think we need to get some more numbers from whatever groups we narrow this down to. And maybe we can tie some of that in, but we have to have that deal at the end done, the end deal done before we even get bring them in the door. Right, so I think we start with that company. We get it narrowed down to a few companies and we have them bring their budget numbers in right away and their percentages and their markups and all, so everything's in front of us. So that's a way we can start the ball rolling maybe a little faster than having somebody come in and just do that cost analysis that we discussed. I think, so I think it's gonna take a while to get.
We want to invite some people to come back and we can sit down and talk to them. Is that what you're hearing?
I think so, because the problem I have, not, I'm a facilities member person, I'm not a school person, I don't know what is needed. I picked up some of that, how many square footage you should have for students, some of those types of things. But and then I talked about Stu Teresa, have them come in and tell us exactly what we need. Well, it's kind of a catch-22 because I don't know exactly what we need. And until they come in and we really say, all right, this is what our school should have. It's kind of hard to just fix what we have today. We need to look at those numbers, but at the same time, are we going to make some changes and such? So it's really a roundabout way. I'm bad, but it's really a roundabout way to get to that.
I want to play with your words though a little bit. We're not looking for somebody that's going to come and tell us what we need. They're going to work with us so that
To learn.
Educate
they can
us.
build a plan.
Right.
But I think too, if we could take, like, why that's happening, can we go look at the technology center in Redwood? Can we go to Hutch and look at their technology center? Can we go look at a classroom that's been renovated, so people just start to understand what it maybe looks like, why this is all happening, so we're not, like, we might, and again, it comes back to the people that work here, the educators, because I don't know, like, I know there's rules on how big classrooms have to be, but what are the new ways to learn and what can be accommodated? But I think also going back to your point, if you get a couple of people in here and you go through their rates, at least everybody's seen like what the percentages are, their fees, and then everything's out there. There should be no surprises.
And that type of procedure that we want. So I know like the CIS people, it's a one-shot deal, they're gonna provide everything for you. And if you read some of these documents, I mean, they spell it out here very clear. It's a nice way of doing it, but you pay a premium for that, and some of these companies even spell it out. At the end of the day, you're paying a lot of extra money for that, and you're losing a lot of control. So I think if we can narrow it down to a few of those companies, and then we bring those few back in, get a better idea of what the end cost is, so maybe we can include them in the beginning, and know that they're gonna stay, and not have to hire another company to do a lot of work that, on, say, for example, the north part of the school, that maybe some of that does come down, so we're not spending a lot of time and extra money up there. When we know that we're gonna maybe add a little bit on the other side or replace somebody. Like I said, it's always hard to get that first ball rolling. Once it gets going, it's easier, but change gears just a little bit. It was R.A. Martin. They actually put that on their first page. And I mentioned, Jim and I had the whole show to ourselves the other day. We were the only about them, and then it came later, but when the people did the walkthrough, so.
Yeah.
I had just made the comment to one of the gentlemen, I said, I think to build a school, along with school, we need more numbers. And I mean, we need to, even if we talk about that nice tech center, and you said, yeah, we can build a tech center, but are we going to afford a teacher to put in it? So I mean, it's such a catch-22. We don't even afford a teacher to put it in, it's bigger numbers. So I mean, so they are doing that. He put that right into one of his paragraphs here. So they're engaged currently with BLHS to study their facilities. So, they thought they would be a good fit to help us bridge the gap into some of that discussion with them. Certainly don't need them to do that, but.
And I know they do, because when I talked to, what's his name? R.A. Morton, we were over talking to him, Todd, he said he has, who does he have do Kraus does a lot of his work,
Was that again?
R.A. Morton.
Yeah.
So that they were on, they had the espresso coffee machine.
That's right. Okay.
Like
Carl
50,
Sanderson does a lot of their work.
Kraus does a lot of their work.
Engineering work for them, or what kind of work?
Yeah, and I was like, well, that's interesting. I mean, they were right across the aisle from each other, but yeah, he had told me that.
That's my opinion too, is I think we need to narrow it down to probably 3 and have them give us another proposal or have them come in and sit down and talk to them and see where their engineering numbers may come in or what they charge for that part of it.
Would you want them to come in with their proposals and give them each like 30 minutes?
You know, if they
and
really
kind
can
of-
come in with proposals.
Or not proposals, I don't mean proposals, but like what their rate structures are, and then,
Cost structure
yeah, and then do you,
and what they can do for us.
yeah, where
Can they do the
you kind of
engineering, can
interview
they do
them.
the, actual work, or are they just gonna be a consultant, or?
I
I
think,
personally would like to hire one company to do the engineering and the architectural part of it, and hire a site manager from another company. That would be what I think we should do, so you have somebody doing the site management that's gonna be watching, make sure the stuff is done right, and not from the same company. That would be fun.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what we've been talking about
Yeah.
all along. I think that was one of the concerns we had with ICS was they can just add on to whatever they want, and we've got no say in it, so change orders and whatever, but
So
Yeah.
I can tell you my top 3 or 4. We can discuss it, but I would say Nexus was my top one that I preferred. Some things that I liked about them, like some of the layouts that they had just ideas for. And they were probably the only one that mentioned anything about the Rhode Island campus.
They're the only ones that actually toured the ground campus.
To them.
They were the only ones.
And they also had an idea of putting a building out here at the track and field, which I think we need a new bathroom and concession stand building instead of
Porta
porta
potties
potties.
don't do it for you.
just
Try
we
me
could
no
do-
moment,
we could do
Greg.
bathroom out there every year.
I
You
like
don't
it,
have to sit on that cold
At
seat.
least they put it out, we thought of it.
Yeah. They actually mentioned too, when we were there, about buying the, like,
I
behind
think they
Wogan
have it
land.
in here. They
Yeah,
have that in
yeah.
here.
Okay.
So I like that. And they also have worked with some schools in here. So my other one is, the second one would be Site Logic. My biggest thing with them is I've seen what they did up in Painesville. Really like, both me and Randy have seen it, really like what they did. I do like that they specifically work with schools. That's their business at schools. And the next one was ASTR, was my third. They also, 90% of their work is with school. And they also said they work with general contractors in local areas, to work with general contractors and that and everything. And they also did Bobasso's remodeling, and I like that.
I
thought they
agree.
did a really good job there.
That's just turned out really nice.
And I have talked to one of the board members in Mobasso, and they said they work really well with them.
What was that? Yes.
ASTR.
I think it's
ASTR.
ATSR.
ATS.
Yeah.
ASTS.
Yeah, and I used to say it that way, so I'm not gonna repeat what you said.
And Apex was my fourth one. And they say the same kind of things, and they also put their facility assessment, what they would charge up front, the total of $15,000 for the assessment, which I didn't think was that. Those were my top four.
I'm gonna
The other ones,
I'll reiterate something I've said last time was, I don't think we have a wrong decision. I think any of these are gonna do a decent job. And it was fun meeting a lot of them at the conference, because
Sorry.
it was nice to be able to put faces to names, and so, anyway, that's just my 2 cents. I don't think I think all of these could do a decent job for us.
there's a couple that I was not that impressed with.
I would echo your top three. And I didn't think I would be so supportive of the first two. I thought they'd be too corporate and not understanding real, but the more you read through and you're just getting a chance to visit a little bit. Use of the word respect of the community and learning more about the community, I think really kind of hit home with me. Just in a conversation with them when they started talking about respecting the community and learning about it, it just kind of made a person kind of settle down a little bit and go, okay, they, you know, and they were very sincere about it. We had a really good conversation. So I don't know.
Would you put them in the same group?
I might put the ATSR up one, but
So-
regardless.
You
I would
would,
go-
Site logic down.
you'd say Nexus, ADSR.
For what it's worth.
That's interesting to me.
The other thing I want to say about SiteLogic, I also talked to a board member. He said when they started with that company, it actually got bought out, and then they went to the name SiteLogic. But he said they were very good to work with. But they also had, with SiteLogic, they had a project manager, and they worked well together.
Nice. And I did talk to the superintendent in Mobasso, the ATSR. I don't think he worked directly on the project. That superintendent is now in a different school, but he said that whenever they need anything, they've been very good to work with.
Who was that?
The ATSR.
No, who did?
Oh, the superintendent in Mobasso.
Wade McKittrick?
I was in, yeah, that sounds right.
Wade McKittrick. He was the assistant principal in Albert Lee my first year teaching,
Oh, really?
back in the 19 something. Anybody else want to give a appraisal?
Go ahead.
Well, I'm a little all over the board here yet, so if you look at like Carl Sanderson's, like page 5 here, they kind of spelled it out as we were talking, their little chart they put on here. So here's what they're showing, of course, us as the owner, and they're showing themselves over here as project managers, and they're showing the architect on the side. So as we talk, separate architect from project managers, which I like. There do some pass-throughs, and I can't remember who did the city of Benson school, but they talked to somebody up there. And that saved them a significant amount of money, which they're kind of showing here, a lot of the trade contracts, what the school felt comfortable with, they did those trade contracts themselves with the supervision of Carl Sanderson yet, but they're contracts direct with the school. What they didn't feel comfortable with are larger projects, then they had those written right through Carl Sanderson, so they had another layer of
protection in there. I kind of like this versus, here's the other situation, the owner, you go with the project manager, may be the architect themselves, and that's when it's really hard to get those fees out of those people. What are they gonna charge for their in-house fees? That's where these other people make the money. They say, yeah, we're only gonna be 5% or 6%. But when you don't see what the architectural fees are, that could be millions of dollars that they're hiding in those contracts. So I like this. You also get, again, 2 companies. So if, say, and just pair some of them up, for example, so just say we went with Wold Engineers and R.A. Morton, so Wold does the overview. You have 2 separate companies, making sure both companies are doing it the right way. A lot of them talk about no extra, once they lock in that number, that there's no change order fees to their percentages. Well, unless you have 2 parties involved or somebody is here monitoring it, lots of times the people don't even know what happened. They may have saved a little bit here to make up for this. And if you don't have more than 1 project person in there, you may not even have, you may end up being shortchanged a little bit. So I again reiterate what Greg said, I
So
like
that,
2
so in
companies.
that situation, is that where a site manager would be watching that?
Yeah, so you'd have Wold would do just using them for example. They'd be the architect engineers, they'd come in, do all the drawings, put everything together. And maybe Morton does more than that, but right on the front page, that's what they say, they're just construction managers. So then Kraus Anderson would still have the lead over these people, but they would be the construction managers in there. And then you tell these people that, okay, whatever the construction managers, these people don't do much in-house. Obviously, they would do the engineering, so you'd have an exact set bid. We know what our engineering and architecture fees are gonna be from these people and what their overall site management costs will be. You have your project managers, and then they go out, and then we just simply say, okay, we want at least 3 bids on each portion that is sublet. And, so local companies have opportunities to bid on those. You make sure they don't put any specifics in where only one specific company can meet some stupid specification. So you've got layers of people watching and protecting because, obviously, we're not full-time people that are gonna be here watching it, so.
Is it common though that like Kraus Anderson wouldn't just bid it as a, or not bid, I keep using bid, I know that's not the right term, but sometimes they come in and they just give you the fee and then they start to pull all these other people in.
I don't really know what's common, but that's not what they're showing in their graph.
Okay,
And that's why I say,
because ICS was using Wold. So I just kind of caution,
right.
like how does that
So-
typically work?
So so what they were in that situation, as I would understand it, if ICS hired Wold, so ICS would charge their 6 or 7%.
And Wold
They were
gets it.
charging you 6% on top of Wold. We might as well hire Wold ourselves, save that money.
We actually hired Wold.
Oh, so that was gonna be a separate piece, not for ICS.
From ICS,
Okay,
okay? So that's one thing, you pull that out, you pull out these managers, and then all the bids going down the stream. And then you have the opportunity of some of those bids, so let's say for example, resurfacing the track, I know was brought up on here. If you're gonna hire Donex or somebody to come in and resurface the track, you probably don't need engineers and people pulling 6, 7, 8% a couple times to oversee that project for you. You could probably hire the Donex or whatever to come in and do that. And as I understand, that's what kind of the school in Benson did. It said, okay, we can do this. We've done that before. We know how to do that. We'll hire this company to come in and do it. So it's included in the whole project, but you're able to manage a little bit of that kind of. I'm not saying we take on any sort of risk
who does
on
that?
anything major at all,
Right.
but it gives you a little bit more opportunity and control on a few of those items that 5% here and there all of a sudden adds up to, it's 50 more money. Also, when it gets to the financial end of it, rather than, one manager saying, hey, we use Beard Financial or whoever they use, same thing, that should be bid out to different bond companies. I mean, buying bonds is just like buying a used car. I mean, they're all negotiable and you just go out and get that best deal you can. So those situations give you more opportunity to do that. So.
Is this just through Kraus themselves, or can we as a school want that from anybody that we choose, have this system.
I think you could just go to anyone you choose to say that,
Okay.
so, you know, ATSR, I mean, I had a little bit of struggle figuring, okay, what total things do they come back to the front page, you know, we say architects, engineers, and planners, so, you know, maybe they're the engineer instead of Wold, and you tie them up again with Mortensen, or you tie them up with, some other project manager. I think that's what, the other guy, SiteLogic or Nexus, or, I mean, I think you could pick some of those pieces. I don't wanna complicate it beyond what
And I think
we
we
feel
gotta watch
comfortable
our
with.
costs too, because I mean, if you wanna hire 3 different separate companies, you're talking 15 a pop for each one.
No, I'm
Easily.
talking on the big total project.
Right.
You'll save money because you're not paying percentages on every company on down the line.
See, I think something like that, like if Crown Anderson was the top, like one of the top 3 you wanted to bring back, like just spending 20 minutes with them to explain that process, hearing it from them would definitely help clarify so we're all understanding correctly.
I agree, because I'm not saying I fully understand,
from
but
what
the
you're
way I'm
saying
looking
sounds
from
really
their
good, yeah.
charts, I think that's what Carl's is even, you know, advertising here, is that that's the role that we can do to save you some money
Yeah.
as a school. And give you more options. You know, on the bottom here, they're showing better opportunity to keep work local. You know, they're showing the separate trades that come down. You can either run those through Kraus, or you can run those through yourself, just on a little flow chart here. So,
And I think that's important too, to use your local contractors. too.
Yep. absolutely, as many as you can, especially if they're paying taxes.
And who's to say we didn't misunderstand that in some of these other proposals?
Yeah,
They
maybe
just
they
happen
all
to
offer the
have
exact same thing.
Yeah.
I just, it might just be this one page that with good advertising there. So,
Yeah.
so that's what I said, I'm really kind of torn, so I kind of thought maybe we should take out a couple that, maybe we start the other way, say, okay, is there anyone that has strong feelings on a couple that we could remove, or that they don't really like, and maybe pull a couple out, I know Loeffler and Apex and some of those, not that they're bad, I truly believe everybody here would do a good job, it's just, maybe we start eliminating a few rather than,
But that's certainly another way to go about it.
Yeah,
Now, I would be curious who everybody's top choices would be. But yeah, certainly if there are some that we can
Well,
pull
by
out.
giving you your top 3 choices, that's eliminating the ones that you don't wanna go with essentially.
True.
The same way.
Did
We
you-
haven't heard anything about Loeffler, so maybe that one goes out.
Did you have a 2 and a 3?
Sorry.
I like the Nexus people.
would you give them the 1?
If Nexus will break up their business, I'd really like Nexus.
Okay.
But if they really want to say, okay, no, we want to do this whole project and not all of it, they'll. So,
Well, and I think I know they talked about that in there. They had a page. Well, I don't remember who everyone was, but like they had Garland listed, and they had a couple companies that we have worked with in the past on there. But I think they said that on that page that they're willing to. Did you have a third place?
I like the Nexus people, I like the Carl Sanderson and, you know, the Wold, I think we just hired an engineering firm or architecture firm, I think Wold's got a strong name there, but then again, you go back to the SiteLogic people, I mean, they seem to do know schools really, really well and specialize in that,
And
so.
Wold may come up again if you were to go with Cross Anderson.
Right, one of the other companies might hold them.
Or, yeah,
So,
Yeah, that's the one. Yep.
Right there.
Yeah, so like, I'm looking at Nexus here, they proposed that they would do like the mechanical and the electrical, and then everything else, I think, was different.
Nexus would do the engineering as well, or were they more,
That's what they would propose, they would do the mechanical and electrical. But then
Electrical engineering here.
and they said that they would recommend architects and MLA, but they would be
Yeah,
willing
they
to
have a
work.
lot.
oh, so they're using a different architect underneath them then?
Yeah.
And I really feel one thing, one of these other ones like Apex, cost saving, us hiring our own engineer to oversee the project is, I mean, they put that right in there, that's the way to like do because of the cost savings for the communities and districts, so I just, I think we hire that person, now whether that engineer company hires somebody else or we hire those two companies, I think that's kind of what Painesville did, I think they hired two separate companies. I think that's the way, we go. They're both answering, those two separate companies, they're both answering to us. They're not answering to one company. But yeah, it's hard to narrow it down to two or three then when we're looking at bits and pieces. So if I took out Apex and Loeffler, that leaves the Nexus, SiteLogic, Carl Sanderson, ATSR, and RA Morton.
You're like a kid in a candy store right now.
Yeah, it's, and I think, like you said, it's, for me to really narrow it down anymore, I'd have to do like you said, we bring them in, and they are, each have 30 minutes. Let us,
I think-
maybe we all send them questions ahead of time, so they'd have a little thought, and then we ask those same questions when they come
I
in.
prefer to surprise them. On some of them, like I just feel,
We can have surprise questions.
Well, I just
This
feel-
isn't a job interview.
if you stage them all,
Sure.
do you really get to know them?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's nice to, as you ask something new, I mean, clearly if you're asking for something financial, you want to give them the respect that they can do
Yeah.
their homework, but I think it goes back to just hearing how they really would treat their customers and how they would find out more about our community. How do they compare us to another district? Things like that, I think is just, it's kind of nice to just hear on the spot.
Yep, that'll be great, and you're right, maybe we have them bring their fee schedules along with. So their fee schedule, if they're simply just the architect, or their fee schedule if they're architect and they provide the oversight on the project manager, or if they just do this.
Yeah, like their
and-
structure of,
Right, so maybe, if there's a huge difference there, that may be an easier decision for some of us, because
it's hard to.
again, I truly believe everyone here obviously has the capability of doing what we need done.
But we would want that to happen fairly quick, I would assume.
I would think as soon as possible, just keep stuff moving.
Teresa, who are your top three?
Well, I'm not gonna pretend like I know anything about building a building right now. The only one that I personally talked to was a rep from Nexus. And, I really liked him. He's the one that kind of put the red flags in my eyes when we were dealing with ICS about not having the 2D and 3D renderings. He said you should always have those.
I think you mentioned that at a board meeting.
I did, yeah. And so, and there were a number of other things I don't have right on the top of my noodle right here, but this gentleman that I talked to who put on that presentation at MSBA also worked with another school. I didn't bring the name of that school, I should have wrote that down tonight, that they worked with, and that rep from that school was there when they put on that presentation, and they really liked working with Nexus also. Whether they have it split out, I don't know. That I like having checks and balances and having them answering to us. I like that idea. I think it's fresh and refreshing, and we need to do that. So without putting any others down, because I don't know enough about it, I'm willing to learn as we go. This is very interesting. You've built buildings. You've done a bunch of that, so I don't know your background.
I built hog barn,
Well,
shed,
okay, so well, you've done that too.
big one.
Great. I've just designed a layout of an office area, and that's all I've ever done. So I'm willing to learn, but Nexus is the one I've personally talked to. They've done follow-up phone calls, just asked how it was going. So I would recommend them or like to see them, whether they're first, second, third choice. I'm not gonna elaborate on that.
I think,
We're not gonna force you to pick two.
I think one thing that Nexus also talked about was community surveys and a much different approach than what we had before. Cause I wish I would have taken better notes during that. I was just very much in awe that they had a very different approach, and the results were much more targeted. So I think that would probably be helpful too, to probably scratch the survey that had already gone out.
I agree. That was another thing I remember him saying too, is he thought it was very important that once you got your 2 and 3D renderings, is to post those throughout the community and let the people see what the plans are and how it's evolving and what they're getting, so you can get feedback from the community also. I thought that was really pretty neat too.
Todd, what do you got?
With me just getting on the committee here, could I get a copy of all that information there
Oh,
sometime?
I
Didn't you get that email?
I super apologize.
No, that's
I
fine.
didn't
Can you give
even
mine and
think.
write that one?
No, just
I'll
email to
I-
me or
I'll-
something
I'll-
forward to me.
Yeah,
I guess this being at the conference, talking with Nexus, they seemed very receptive or whatever. They're easy to talk to. But just talking with Greg and Randy, Painesville and Obasso School, with them looking at that school, both of them schools, they had really positive things to say about that. I'd be very hesitant. Anybody that talks about buying more land, I'd be very hesitant on any of that. So anybody that talks about that, I would be questioning that right away. So other than that, I don't know much about anything else.
Jamie?
I was just gonna say, Jamie.
Nexus was my top. Just even talking to them, I can't remember her name, but she was very like, she had it all laid out. This is how things have to happen. And then I liked the ATSR, and then I liked Stick Logic. But Nexus was by far, I can't think of the older guy's name either. He was pretty awesome.
From ATSR?
No, he was at our place before we left to eat. They had the backside.
Oh, yeah, that was Carl Sanderson.
Yeah, I like him, but he's a suck up. He did good. He sucked up very well.
So do you want me to list them?
That was more a personal thing, just because he was good.
Sammy, did you get a chance to go through? Jim?
You think? Yeah, I went. I'll share with my thoughts, but I want to go last.
You're gonna share yours?
Well, I think it's important that we hear from both of you.
I definitely like Nexus. Wold, I know the work that they do, and I know how they work with you, the experience with that.
With Walt, do that?
We both have.
Wold, yeah. And then I would say Kraus Anderson. And I'll tell you a story about Nexus. We had that snowstorm. I made it into work, and I'm thinking, there is no way these people are ever gonna show up. And all of a sudden, my phone beeped.
That's right, yeah.
Jim was here too. And I came down and I said, these people are coming to meet with us. I mean,
We canceled school that day, didn't we?
Huh?
Wasn't that
Yeah.
it? Did we cancel school?
And it was unreal to me. I mean, that they would drive through that. I mean, not that it was life or limb, but, and they were like 15, 20 minutes late. So, and after talking with them or whatever that day, I liked it.
What do you got, Jim?
I had Nexus, they would be my first choice. Not to beat a dead horse, but I thought by far they were the best communicators. My second would be Kraus Anderson, and my third would be Loeffler, even though nobody else would.
Sorry.
I put them in order of who I really thought we would communicate best with. So that was my.
Jim, have you had some experience with Loeffler?
No, I just thought it was funny when you guys were like, we can pull them out. I'm like, oh, that was my number 3 choice.
And my only reason is because I didn't know anyone that had experience with it here locally. And didn't. So I just, not negative at all, I just didn't have any.
Just going by communication, Honestly, some of it, a lot of that is cosmetic. I thought they had a really good presentation here, and I liked how it was very personalized, and to me, that showed maybe a willingness to personalize their service. So I guess that's what tugged on my heartstrings a little bit there. But again, Nexus was same thing. Their presentation was very simple to read. It almost had a children's book quality to it, yeah. And I would echo what Denny said. I was really impressed that they came down on that particular day because they couldn't get here the same day as everybody else because they were doing, it was like right after Christmas, and that was like their family time. So I thought that was nice.
So what I say we have Nexus as our first choice.
Everybody's.
So that's a definite.
So Nexus and SiteLogic would be very similar in concept, right?
I think it would be.
So, since, I'm just throwing this out there, since everybody's expressed a lot of thoughts about Nexus, a lot of us at SiteLogic, but we didn't have that connection like Nexus. Do we not do SiteLogic and maybe add in like a Wold or somebody else? That was maybe just a little bit different type of company. Being Nexus and SiteLogic are so similar in what they do.
I think it wants to have that similarity though too, just so you can say, hey, I mean, unless, like, I don't know, if we're gonna narrow down to 3, you wanna still be able to see the different write-ups and numbers and, you know.
I'm really curious to pick your brain, just because you've done big projects, and so, I think we need to really hear that too. Not that no one else is, I mean, we all matter, but just knowing that he's done big projects before, I like that, how he picks it apart.
And this is the reason why it's not just.
Jackie's
3
done
board
big
members
projects too,
anymore.
Teresa, just so you know, she's done a lot of big projects too.
Oh, yeah,
A lot, I mean, like the whole red.
and I'm listening to her too, so. Thank you for,
And you worked with Wold on that,
Wold,
right?
yeah.
And Wold.
So similar
Turn me
concept. You
I don't
hire
know.
Wold, and then they had, we had a we had a general contractor.
And you guys both like Wald, right? You did
Yeah.
already,
I've never used them, I just,
but you like
the
the
reputation is good,
They've done a lot of projects in Redwood, so that's probably what I mean, I didn't list them, but I figured they'd probably serve us somewhere else in the project.
in that project, did Wold hire the general managers and such underneath it, or did you guys hire them separately?
The original, they were hired underneath the contract when they did the rec center. I can't speak to how they did the school.
Okay,
When we added on,
Wold hired them, the general managers, okay.
yeah,
Okay.
who did we, remember the guy's name? What was his name, or the company?
Dan
Yeah, this one, I can remember,
Busser.
Bossart Corporation. Yeah. And they used they bid it out and used several
did,
fairly
yeah.
local contractors. So same concept,
Yeah.
but we didn't have, they took care of everything. We didn't break it down after that.
Now, I feel like with like Wold and ATSR, they're more the architects. And so should we maybe focus on more of the project manager role, like Nexus would do, or SiteLogic, or looking at our.
And I think I gravitate towards the ATSR just because I really like Comasso School. It turned out really nice. Not to say nobody else can do that, but
was it you or you that saw Painesville's too, or did?
I've not seen Painesville. I've
Me and Randy.
just
Okay,
heard a lot
you
about
guys
it.
like that.
That was SiteLogic, but do you know who their
He
architect
told
was?
us who the architect, or you mean the site manager? Site Logic was the architect.
Oh, they were the architect. Oh, okay.
But they hired a site manager.
Okay. I had that backwards then.
And he did give us that name and company, and I forgot to ask.
We
him.
like Prozac.
Not just, yeah, just.
Could we put in top 4 and throw in Carl Sanderson too, if we do the top 3 and Carl Sanderson?
Yeah, or, I mean, I wanna move stuff along too, but we're gonna give them each half an hour, just invite them all.
I don't know if a half an hour is gonna cut it, to be honest. I mean, when we had the interviews here for the architects, it was, remember how long that was? It was a
I
long.
wasn't, I had nothing to do with it.
So you guys
You were here.
For
interviewed,
the architect?
Yeah, when they came and interviewed, it was Wold and I voted against Wold because I didn't, they rubbed me wrong. But everybody else, I mean, like, the company that Barb works for was
yeah,
here.
and again.
Was it a
Another
facility
one.
committee meeting?
No, it was a
Meeting.
school board meeting. You were
They-
here, weren't you?
I came right after.
Yeah, I mean, we had like 4 or 5 of them, or 3 of them, or I don't know.
They
I
went
was
through
like,
the process of interviewing architects, but they didn't enter any agreements.
I don't, I was far removed from that, so I probably wasn't paying attention.
This guy here sent me an email yesterday, I don't know if you've ever heard of him.
Yeah, I've heard the name.
He's a consultant, so I don't know if this is something we would. So
Apex, yeah.
he's worked with Apex, yeah. So I don't know if this is something that we would look at hiring him on the side as a consultant, or site manager or something like that. So
But Randy, what do you think we should bring them all in?
Well, I think if the group agrees, we want a 2 layers of oversight. I think if we can agree that we should hire the architect and we should hire the general manager. I think if the group agrees to that, I think we bring these people back and we say, this is what we're thinking we want to see. How do you see yourself fitting into this picture?
or
And-
can
and
we
who
say in
have you-
Nexus, this is what we want? How does that work for you? How do you lay that out? Or Site Logic, this is what we wanna do. What does it look like?
Absolutely. How do
You
you
know?
envision this? What partners would you see? Do you see partnering in any of these other people? And you just tell them, you got half an hour. I mean,
Yep.
You don't have to give them a date. I mean, it's, that's gonna narrow us down. I hate to do it, because it's, the idea would be to cut her down now, but it's hard to do because, and at that same thing, they should bring their fee schedules with. Because right there, if somebody has twice the fee schedule, it's probably.
So
not
how many
gonna-
proposals did we have?
We have
I can't
7
open
or
it
8
up
here,
right now.
7.
That's what I had.
7?
I think we can throw out one.
Well, I think we
they're
can
here,
throw
let
out a
them
couple.
come back.
We just throw a
Let
couple.
them all come back if they want to give them half an hour.
I
They
think we
wanna
throw out a
do little
couple.
time.
I would, let's get rid of some, let's narrow this
I
down.
think we got.
We might quit listening after the
All right.
first hour.
Yeah.
That's part of the problem. I've done that where I've interviewed teachers and you get 7 coming in and by the 7th one, it's like, yeah, you're not gonna get the job.
All right. No, I'm fine with that. Throw out a couple.
So we do 5?
Oh my God.
So if you
I
have,
say 4. My vote's for 4.
There must be 8.
Cause
I
then you're
think there's
still
8.
looking at
There's
2
8.
hours.
Because we don't have Ari Morton on
5,
this.
6, 7, there's 8. Yep.
There's 8.
Yeah,
No, I know, I didn't have 8.
there is
I threw one out myself.
Who was,
You can eliminate one
Jim,
yourself.
who was that, Jim, who was that company that sat out here and talked? Which one was that?
I think that was Lafayette.
You liked that?
Yeah.
After they didn't email you?
Yeah, I made that comment.
Yeah.
It wasn't that they didn't email me.
They never contacted you.
I- It was just,
Yeah.
quick communication and because I'd said, I'd sent out an email saying, we're canceling for tomorrow.
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly how it went, but, would you be able to meet on Thursday? I think the response was, okay.
Yeah.
Or something like, that's what I said about the communication there. But
Well, you know what, if you think about it, if we were to keep 6 of them and give them each a half hour,
That's 3 hours.
this is a big decision. But if we started at 9, got done at noon, they left, we could sit and have lunch after that. And then maybe after that, we could narrow it down some more, unless we needed more time to chew it out a little bit. But that's a half hour or 3 hours of our time up front.
I
It's
can't
worth
do
the
it during
time.
the day.
Can you do smaller chunks during the day? Just out of curiosity.
I can do my lunch hour. I burn so much vacation time with school board that I can't.
How late in the day works for you?
I work until 5.
So we might have to do a couple
Or we just go with the majority and meet the majority of us that can be there. Because if you want to keep it moving.
Yeah, there's probably gonna be, somebody's not gonna.
I was gonna say, it's likely
And it's
that.
not the final decision, it's
No.
just narrowing it down a couple more.
I would like to
And
do
it-
4. That's my opinion. I think, I mean, like I would be, obviously Nexus is one of them. Like if you look through Kraus Anderson, Site Logic, and ATSR are the top 4 that people have mentioned.
I haven't tallied that up, but that seems pretty accurate.
Apex is on there once, Wolf is on there once, and
We didn't really talk about Ari Martin other than Randy, just like your scenario. And again, how do these people all fall into place?
Right, and I just, Morton did, doing Hector, or whatever it sounds like, but it did do Renville. Right,
not impressed.
Yeah, they did, I don't, they did run well, they would say,
but if they were just simply the construction project manager, if they're no architect, it's nothing to them, they just built, they're told to build.
Right. I was gonna say, it's kind
They
of,
may be coming back in, right,
so it's, yeah,
they could be coming back into play with, because I know that Kraus works really close to them.
And about time I say, Apex, there's just one paragraph here, I'll just read quickly the second paragraph from there. They have a little different philosophy here, and they said there has been a move in the construction management industry towards a district hiring one firm that is responsible for the architectural and engineering design work, as well as construction management. Why this model may be good for the construction manager, allowing them to have more control and more markups, it is not the optimal model for a district. We believe that a more traditional model where the district hires the architectural engineer directly and then also hires the construction manager should be the preferred model.
yeah, we agree with that.
So,
Well, I would assume that's gonna carry down to all of them. I mean, we're the owners, so we can say this is what we wanna do. How does it look for you? What does that look like?
I'm just thinking that if that's kind of what they're hanging their hat on, maybe we shouldn't be so quick to throw them out. That's,
I think you're back to 8 now.
so I won't take the offer out, I just have a hard time throwing the rest of them out just because they could meet somehow. And it's, if we were spending $500,000, it'd be easier, but when you're looking at something, who knows what it's gonna lead to this year, next year, 10 years down the road, we just wanna make
If we're gonna interview staff, we gotta have some pretty concise questions, like all of us are gonna need to put together something
Mhm.
and have it, not saying they're gonna get them all, but I think to split them. So we have a very good agenda to keep them to 30 minutes and to keep it moving and then to allow us to take notes that we're answering the similar questions
Yeah.
each time. So we have, when we're done and trying to regroup, we don't go, oh gosh, no, what did that one say? Because we're not gonna re-interview unless it's a tie or something. But I
Right.
just, I think that's a little of my fear is doing that many is it's gonna be a lot of information to, it's a struggle to read the information and keep it all straight. So when we start to
Retain it.
And maybe, as you said, maybe that we pose the questions to them ahead of time on the specifics, the fee schedule.
Yep.
The hard paper stuff, and that half hour they come is really them talking to see their personality, how they fit.
Mhm.
So,
And maybe we just reserve 2 questions on the spot.
right,
Like we just give them 20 minutes to get through the business and then 10 minutes where we just wanna really understand how they would connect with us.
and I would assume maybe they want their fee schedules obviously confidential, maybe, so that's something we could review after that, everybody's gone.
It'd be interesting if they give fee schedules about a project too, so to speak. I would think that they
They have to.
would.
If we're asking for it.
Right, but that might help with the process too.
Right, one of them's 10%, one's 5%, and they're all very capable, well, that's an easy decision, so.
Easy.
And yet, we see this more now with the COVID world we're in. Companies are just throwing out crazy numbers. If they're busy and they're short on help.
Yep.
They're throwing out numbers that are just
Just,
way out there. And if they get it, fine. If they don't, they're busy enough. So more than ever, in our business, we have to quote, and it's not uncommon for us to see double price for the exact same piece of part or equipment from a different company. You think it can't be, but it just amazes me today, especially the HVAC system. It's incredible difference we see. So you swear there has to be a mistake, but it's not
Just
always
being
the
polite,
case.
not
Yeah,
business.
yeah.
So what's our decision on how many we want to do? Jamie
I
says
still vote for. I do, I think that, because I think you're gonna probably pull a lot of them into play. And I think you're gonna get too much information and
I'm open, I just wanted to keep moving. And it could be a struggle to get people here, but I think somehow we just have to keep this going. I was thinking back, it's already been, 3 years since the first task force meeting was started?
Yeah.
So how quick that goes, I don't want it to get delayed from us not being able to take the time, so. I'm open, I just would like to see it keep going.
Here's what I've written down. I call back for Nexus, ATSR, SiteLogic, Cross Anderson, and I put Apex on there.
I think you should include Wool.
Oh, and Wool.
How many is that?
Forgot about Wool, sorry, Wool. That's 6, yep.
And do you leave RA Martin off since they could circle back in?
Probably.
well,
I mean, I'm fine with that.
Nobody mentioned it really, so.
that's why I'm saying like if you really need to interview all, I'm sure two of them get circled back in for sure.
Wouldn't have to do them all in one day. You could split that.
That's what we were talking.
True.
I don't know, part of me just says get it over.
And they might,
That's, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a lot, I mean, that's a lot of
I can see
what's that?
information.
they might not all be. able to
Right,
do
but I
it.
think
Well,
once you get going and you take the notes and you hear,
Mhm.
it might be easier
So
to keep track of
Apex,
notes.
I agree.
all,
It's on your mind, do that.
Cross
I
Anderson,
know. I can see.
Schedule it as easy to be.
ESR,
ATSR,
SiteLogic, and Nexus.
Nexus, did you say Cross Anderson?
I think it's easier too if you do it all in one day too, that like you're in that mindset for all of them. I think you compare apples to apples more than that way, and then you'll be able to be like, this one really hit it out of the park, that one is like,
And I'm with you, I lose interest after.
So here's what we're gonna recommend for questions. Let's not do this here. Why don't we email those out and we can discuss them. And the reason I'm saying that is that they all know that we post this. So if we're gonna have,
Right.
oh, yeah, that one.
Good point.
They all know.
they all
can all
know that we
watch
post our
See it.
meetings on YouTube, so.
And we only need 2 questions?
No, I think we're gonna send them a few questions.
I don't,
Well,
well,
we could-
we don't want to, don't you want it like from the hip,
We wanted a couple
And then a
like
couple.
surprise?
surprise questions.
Natural.
We can discuss those, but the questions that we want to ask, what are your fee schedules?
And if you lay out, this is
Those
the
they'll be
direction,
in the message.
Well, and I mean, if that is private information,
they have to give it to us, or we're not, yeah, I mean, that's what they're working on.
I think
I mean,
on the process,
exactly. We could have we could have it on paper. We don't need to necessarily.
Right, I mean, I don't think it needs to be spoken if it's on YouTube, we don't,
no.
we can keep that confidential between our group.
Yeah.
That's fine.
And I think we wanna know the process, like, how does it work? Do you have your own
Mhm.
architect? Can we hire our own general like, whatever that is.
And if we
Process
say,
that they
and
really
if we
want.
say our district is leaning towards the possibility of us hiring our own architect and our general manager, what are your thoughts on that process? And what would you see your role in that process be? And what layers would you bring in, or would you recommend on the opposite side of you? So if you're an engineering firm, who would you recommend on the general manager side? If you're a general manager, who would you recommend on the engineering firm that you feel comfortable working with? I can put. So in our email group, should we email those questions between us?
Yeah.
So we.
Yeah, let's
can
do that.
Put together
Then
that. and then
I'll
we'll
put together
find out.
a Google Doc, everybody can get on there. And then we can,
You might wanna pick a date fairly quick too, so we can block schedules.
is that something we could do? Because that's, actually, I just wrote a note that when we do it like a doodle poll, if we could respond within a day to that. Like, I had no idea how stressful it is trying to schedule a meeting with facilities. It's like, okay,
So do you wanna just send out a doodle thing?
I could unless we could
Sorry.
agree on a day. Next week is not good.
We gotta get a little time to put the questions together.
Yeah, but, I mean, they're only gonna have a couple questions. If they can't put it together that fast,
Oh, no, not for them, for us.
oh, for us, yeah, okay.
This is about us.
I mean, if we're gonna do this in one day, it kind of has to be during the day. Jamie, are you okay if you're not there?
Not really.
Okay, well, then we'll,
I mean, if you can do it later in the day and that I'm not having to take 3 hours of vacation, that would be helpful because
What about,
I'm down to
How many you got down? 6?
That's 3 hours.
what about the 16th of February?
So you got 6 of them?
So the same concept of this.
We,
We're gonna be good here for on Wednesday night.
okay.
There's your date, 16th.
The 16th. I mean, I just,
That one doesn't work for me. I'm doing an upgrade that day. I know that.
it's wide open for me. But you can't work me, I'm not a board member.
Got Olivia golf course meeting that day, but I could reschedule it. I'm the president.
Maybe I should leave
Does it have to be on a Wednesday or any day, I mean, I can make any day work. My schedule doesn't matter, night, day, whatever.
Wednesdays in general are great, because, I mean, I can miss robotics, but we don't meet on Wednesdays, so. If I'm not there though, they're not missing out on a whole lot of expertise.
Never know.
But I can make almost any evening work.
I think you're gonna have to do the doodle thing personally, because we're all gonna be sitting here, well, maybe
Well,
not.
we'll try it twice and then, would 5:30? We go 5:30 to 8:30,
I'll even do 4.
4, okay,
Then I can go in at 7.
4 o'clock.
On the 16th yet?
I can't on the 16th.
15th?
15th?
15th, I can.
You got the look.
Nope.
17th?
Mhm.
You're out of town?
Nope.
No, you're there, okay.
Thursday.
17th February. Whoa. 17th is February.
It's a Thursday.
Thursday.
Yes, that's the answer to your question, yes.
I don't know, but if you need
If you do,
majority rules, I'm fine.
if you do 4
Someone can
o'clock,
catch me up.
I can make the
Well-
16th work.
17th.
The 16th.
Oh.
Going back to the 16th. I
Oh.
can't, because I should be done with Matt Gray by then. I should.
That works for Teresa, the
Yes.
16th.
If we start at,
I'll have to reschedule.
yeah, if I'm not, I'll do it that night.
Jim, the
No.
16th? Oh, that's the golf course?
No, I'll just, I rescheduled it last month for, I think, the same reason.
So the 16th at 4, is that what you said?
Yeah, and I'll send out a calendar invite, but let's,
So you'll wanna reach out to these companies right away too.
yeah,
Not
so.
decide what to do, sorry.
So I'll let two of them know that we're going a different direction. I'll let these 6 know that we'd like to have them come back for a half-hour interview. We're gonna send them, I'll let them know this tomorrow. We'll send them questions.
And then specific times. Because you want to assign each one a time.
Yeah.
But you can tell them just to reserve their night for now until you get it put together. Sorry.
Well, you can put the time slot, maybe you can put the time slots out there and they start choosing them.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Whatever's easier for you.
Say, these are the time slots.
I'll do that.
Honestly, just assign them if they want to work with us, they'll accommodate, right?
Good point.
And then you're done. You don't have to wait for them to respond.
Right.
All right. Well, at the beginning of the meeting, I said I was hoping we'd narrow down to 1. We're at 6, but it became pretty evident when we started discussing that this is the best way to do it. Yeah. It is a big decision, and the last thing we need is to be accused of rushing that, so. But we still do need to get moving on it, so. All right,
Can I bring one other thing up quick?
Yeah, yeah.
And I know someone touched on that pool, and again, just to try to expedite some decisions that may come down the road. And I understand the city of Olivia, I mean, it's fabulous that they've taken over. But maybe that discussion should start between the school board and the city of Olivia, so that either, I mean, might as well know what it is. I mean,
Yeah.
I understand if the city can't do it, it's fabulous that they have been, and if they can, it'd be a shame to lose the pool.
but you'll never get a pool back.
Yeah, I mean, nice little Grenville, I mean, my gosh,
Yeah,
$4 or $5
I was
million.
gonna say, there's not
for a
much
pool.
for pools left in the county,
Yeah,
And I think that was $4 or $5 million for an outdoor
outdoor
yeah.
pool.
water park.
And that included, I think they're doing some slides.
Yeah,
It was a water.
and it was like, yeah,
But literally, that didn't pass, so now we're down to Olivia and Fairfax, because
Well, they're
Hector's in
still, I
limbo.
think they're still gonna have their pool that been past the total remodeling or
yeah,
adding on. I
They'll
think
keep
they're
the
still gonna
pool.
have
I was under the impression it was just, they needed so many repairs, they're done.
no, they were adding on, like, they were gonna add on like slides and a bunch of other stuff. No, it was a couple little in-seam things, but they're still keeping.
Oh, I was completely under this,
All right,
But to,
Yeah.
I think to Randy's point, I think that there needs to be a discussion.
yes.
There's probably, I don't know, I'll say $1 million worth of
That's about the number somebody had listed in here.
upgrades
So the
there.
discussion as far as who's gonna pay for that, the city or the school, and who's gonna take ownership?
Correct.
You know, it's
And I-
not a big part of our curriculum.
Yeah, right.
We don't have a team.
But I think, correct, I think when you look at offerings, I mean, I get the school district, it's not their curriculum, but it's very important to our communities. If we lose another pool and we're not teaching swimming lessons, it's a very big deal, because where are our kids gonna learn to swim? Not that it's to fall completely on one entity or the other, but it's gonna become a really big concern when we don't have those amenities in our community.
Agreed.
But it has to be addressed.
Correct,
I-
absolutely,
I
I
fully-
don't disagree
I
with
fully
that.
agree too, it'd be a shame not to have a pool.
I
But
just- It
it needs to
seems,
be in writing and we got a plan, so
Yeah.
if no
And
one wants to
communicate.
pay for it, if the area has to get remodeled, then it's no longer a pool. I mean, but we don't want our planning to be delayed waiting for.
It needs
other
early
countries, so
communication.
Get it done.
agreed. All right, I'm going to send out, make contact with these 6 tomorrow, well, and let the other 2 know. Morton and Loeffler. I'll tell them Wednesday, February 16th. I'll give them times. I'm gonna tell them we're gonna send them questions. And they'll get a half hour,
Max.
max. And we're gonna have a couple extra questions that we give them on the spot. All right,
And then however you want to start that conversation with the city. I don't have,
I think we
more
just did.
direction.
I think it needs to be lined up.
yeah, I could talk to Dan.
Whether they want to have a meeting with the board or with this.
Right, work session? Or would they come through here?
I think it goes back to
Facilities.
rewind when the vote was happening and it didn't get addressed. Like just before you what you're saying, early communication, because to my knowledge, it never was addressed when we were going through the last vote.
Yeah, there would have been nothing, right, had the last vote went through, there would have been gone.
And there was not communication of that, to my understanding. I could be wrong on that, but
All right. Well, we can stretch this out for more.
Nope.
Okay, good. We will talk soon. I'll keep you informed and we'll get some questions together. Thank you.
To the fair board meeting. Oh, I will work on it too. Oh, God.
We all took it.